The pre-Raphaelites. Who were they? And what are they doing? Well, they were trying to imitate the work of Raphael. Remember, the Italian painter. Here you see founders William Holman Hunt and John Everett Millais. Also a founder of the pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood was Dante Gabriel Rossetti, whose poem we're going to look at the end of this unit. They were later joined by 4 others, but the movement slowly died by the century end. It was established originally in 1849, so it didn't really last that long. But what was their goal? Let's look here. This is a painting originally painted by Raphael. Do you see the detail on the clothing? Do you see the bright colors? Especially the detail and the light in all of the painting, not just in one area of it. When I spoke before about how literature is influenced by the world changing around it, well, it's also influenced by art. Those movements that we looked at before, Romanticism, Neoclassicism, Raphaelism, those are all also art movements. So at the same time that artists were influenced, so were writers. How were artists influenced by pre-Raphaelites? Well, they advocated a brighter and more detail-oriented style, as opposed to the favored muted colors and clear light sources in paintings. How did writers get affected? They also followed a movement with more detail in their writing, more description, and even more sensual writing. The Germ was a publication of the pre-Raphaelites that you'll have to remember. It only published 4 editions, but it was their only publication and their only source of disseminating their information, so it's very important to remember. Let's read a poem called The World's Doing by Dante Gabriel Rossetti and see if we can glean some pre-Raphaelite tones. One scarce would think that we can be the same who used in those first childish Junes to creep with held breath through the underwood and leap outside into the sun, since this mine aim took me unto itself, the joy which came into my eyes at once sits hushed and deep, nor even the sorrow moans, but falls asleep, and has ill dreams, for you, your very name seems altered in mine ears, and cannot send heat through my heart, as in those days afar, wherein we lived indeed with the real life. Yet, why should we feel shame, my dear sweet friend? Are they most honored who without a scar pace forth, all trim and fresh, from the splash strife? Let's look at this poem and see what details we can see. Notice the change in the word use. Diction. It's the choice of words that a poet or a writer chooses. We're used to seeing very formal poetry. And all of a sudden we're seeing here really interesting adjectives, childish, creep. And look at the descriptions. We used to creep with held breath. Let's go to the next one. For you, my ill dreams, my sorrow moans, they seem altered in mine ears and heat through my heart. The production of the senses in this poem, it wants to bring detail to the sensual writing. Remember, sensual doesn't just mean bodily and sexual. It means the senses are activated. That's what you should think of when you think of the word sensual. And so moaning is a sense of grief, dreaming is a sense of consciousness, hearing is a sense of hearing in the ears, the heat in my heart, the emotion, and the real life that's being described. So you see how they're going for more detail here, following that. It doesn't have to be romantic all the time. Why should we feel shame without a scar or strife? This pre-Raphaelite writing actually leads us into the next literary periods that are so important. Because as the world opened up with all of these new ideas and all of these new genres, writers really had a chance to explore. And since the dictionary was published, now the vocabulary of the English language was consistent and pushed together so that it could be examined and disseminated and used. Remember, the pre-Raphaelites only existed for a little time, but their influence on literature was very important. I want you to study them and watch for the answers in the unit guide at the end.